Unfortunately, Jake Hitbrain Matthews has got a bit of crab TSD, and he has to take a little bit of a break. He was a little bit overloaded from all the crab dancing this morning, as well as the people in Twitch chat who
I think he just went a bit too far with it. I think, you know, it was fun. We all had a lot of fun, but he really pushed the boat out with the moves, and I think he might have pulled something.
I think he might have pulled a muscle. Yeah, so I had to take over.
And I think that says to me that the key thing is you should always warm up before you do these things. I mean, me and Scandal were doing our warm-ups.
Actually, before we were going live, Dan did have the crab rave video up, and he was just practicing his moves like this, just in front of the phone. I was really impressed with his moves, but then you know, sometimes the plan just doesn't quite come together when you're live, and it didn't quite work out. So, you know, it's a learning experience. Maybe we don't bring a crab costume to the UKLC finals. I mean, it swings and roundabouts. But what we can bring is giant inflatable microphones, which apparently are now all over our studio, and I don't know why.
Yep.
We also have giant inflatable everything. We've got saxophones, we've got guitars. There was going to be a skip. I don't know. We're probably going to avoid that now.
The thought process behind the UKLC is that you know, like when you put down a ton of ideas and some of them like, well, I didn't really want to do that, but I just, you know, I had the idea, it just popped in my head. We just say yes to everything.
We are the yes men.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, why don't you do this? You're like, you know, whatever.
Borja comes in and says, I think we should put a giant tomato over each of your fingers and then have you cast like that. And I just say yes.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
Borja. So if you have any suggestions, you can tweet at us, #UKLC, and you can say, yeah, I would like to see you do this or that, and we'll probably say yes.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a suggestion for us,
and it's within reason.
Yeah, within reason. Like, remember, the UKLC, we're trying to be a little bit more relaxed, a bit different, a bit chilled out. If you've got an idea for us that you want to see, and if you tweet me saying, why don't you talk about the picks and bans, I'm going to block you. So if you have an idea for the UKLC, please just, you know, send us here. We kind of just say yes to everything realistically.
Yeah. I mean, last game we were pretty focused on the picks and bans because it's a final, so
we will be focused on the picks and bans.
We'll do you that justice, don't worry about that. And obviously a lot of people are interested in the result of this game, but aside from that, we just love to mess about because it's a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy it too.
Now remember, if you are watching the stream closely, you may at some point see our furry dog champ friend on the screen somewhere. There you go, down there. And if you see DogChamp at any point during the stream, make sure you tweet #UKLC. It will be in an opening video.
Yeah, once again, do not take a screenshot now, because you won't win anything.
Yeah, you won't win anything. Make sure it's in an opening video, and you guys can then potentially win the Bullet Angel Kai'Sa skin in purple chroma, I think.
Yep.
I think that's the one. So we're going to jump into the second game. Now, I was watching the sidelines. I actually wasn't supposed to be casting today, but I have, like I said, given old man Jake Hitbrain Matthews a little bit of a rest. Hence why I'm not... I mean, I never really dressed for the occasion anyway, but I'm definitely not dressed for the occasion right now. But you can see XL taking up... That's not XL. It's definitely not XL. It's Diabolus taking on Fnatic.
Yep.
I just literally read it from the screen. I was like, yeah, that's not the case.
Those are the wrong teams. You know, it's just what we like to do with the UKLC. We keep you on your toes.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah, so we'll
It's early in the morning. Everybody screws up early in the morning.
It's the same sides as before. And we've seen the same thing coming out from Fnatic with the bans. They banned Yorick, Vladimir, and Orianna. Diabolus did ban this Silas, but it was their third ban, so they might have switched up the order a bit somewhat. We're probably just going to be a lot of comparing to last game as to how last game's draft went, because obviously Fnatic went pretty good because they stomped, and Diabolus obviously probably weren't happy with that last game.
There we go.
We'll have to see what they've done to change.
10 out of 10 for effort.
Yeah, absolutely. So Silas, Olaf, this is exactly the same, just in a different order as the bans last time. Fnatic banned Orianna here. So we'll have to wait and see if they go for a similar thing. And
Fnatic had a very mid-game orientated composition last time around. Like, they needed a snowball. And something that we often don't see from these teams, when they go up against the Vayne, for instance, this is something that always happened versus XMATI, is that people just couldn't snowball that mid-game effectively. Fnatic have shown us that they can snowball that mid-game effectively, even when faced with the prospect of a timer like a Vayne.
Which I think is a big change, because I felt like, to me, Fnatic were a very slow team at the start of the split, but they've definitely picked up that pace somewhat now. And Diabolus will have that third ban, which is going to be Lucian. So they have adjusted their draft to a degree, banning away that Lucian, stopping that Lucian Braum lane, because, I mean, I think that was a big problem for me. Fnatic have been very adamant on first picking that Braum. They did it all yesterday.
Has played it incredibly well.
Yeah, and I wouldn't surprise me if they did it again here, but that Lucian Braum lane is now off the table, and it makes sense because Matty had such a great performance on that. The Braum comes out, we're not surprised. Diabolus, it now goes over to them. They picked Vayne Jarvan here. I think Jarvan works as a pick whether they want to go for the Vayne. They're going to go straight for the Vayne again. They think the problem was the lane.
But they won the Vayne Jarvan.
Exactly the same as before. And now it will go over to Fnatic, who they went Rek'Sai Lucian. They can't go Lucian this time.
No, but they can still go Rek'Sai if they really want to. Dan, I think, had a really big impact on that particular champion that time.
I'm just going to say, he absolutely dumpstered Monkeys in the last game.
He did. He dumpstered. I think that was
Monkeys is someone I've complimented heavily throughout the split. He's been a really strong member of Diabolus, but he just got absolutely murdered last game. So he'll take the Rek'Sai again, and understandably, he's been very confident on it. And now it comes down to, do they still want to take in that AD carry in this first rotation when Lucian's not up? Or do they want to change things up a bit? Because Lissandra is what Diabolus took on red side on that third pick, but it is a big pick for Magifelix as well, and so they take that off the cards. And now we're going over to Kroxin. Kroxin has played Cassiopeia to great success into Lissandra. I think you can also play Ryze into it, which Kroxin's happy to play. We saw that same matchup last game. I would understand if they wanted to take that mid laner now and secure a good matchup for him. Corki is also the go-to counter for Lissandra,
because you can just Valkyrie away.
Just scales up hard to punish. But Kroxin isn't too big on the Corki, and he's actually going for that Zillion. So this is something we did see from him yesterday. Wasn't super successful. They won, but there are times where it felt like it struggled a bit. And yeah, the win rate's 100%, so you've got to give credit to that.
Yeah, I think
it's all about facilitating your team.
Exactly, I think facilitating your team. You know, you before level 6, you're always going to be threatening Lissandra just because she's a short-range mage, and those bombs are always going to be a nuisance. Lissandra either just respects the bombs and lets you push, or you have to be aggressive with your jungler and go for a claw gank or go in post level 6 to get the ultimate off. But when you got a Vayne, you as a Zillion, me and Jake talked about this a lot yesterday. Zillion's front-loaded damage onto Q. Once Q's down, you've got nothing really apart.
You need sustained DPS.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got the sustained DPS of the Vayne, so it works in that kind of
composition. And crucially, if you look at Fnatic's composition already, they have a ton of burst. And burst is very bad against Sicilian, because if you use the ultimate of Dan and Magifelix on a single target and they just come back to life, you're essentially left in a really unfortunate position, because both these champions, once you ult in as Rek'Sai, once you use your ult as Lissandra, you're very vulnerable. Because, you know, those are your go-to, sort of, although they're offensive abilities, you use them to buy time as well. You can use your ult to ult yourself, you can use your ult to dive in, and now we'll see what else Diabolus want to take. The Relia is something that we've seen banned against some other teams, not so much against Diabolus.
I would assume you just take your support here, though, because you
would be the safer bet.
Yeah, you have the safer bet.
So it might just be a hover. In fact, it could, though, be a Zillion support.
Yes.
Is a big thing. It's not. It's definitely not. They confirmed that with it. So they're going for the same bot lane, that Vayne and that Rakan, so confident they can get to the point where they scale well, and it does give some good engage to their composition. I do have to worry, though, it was a weak lane last time. They did fine holding up, but the mid-game pressure coming out.
Is that because of the Lucian, though? That's the question. Are you going to get a similarly paced AD carry that isn't Lucian? I can't really name many that have the similar kind of pace.
Varus is pretty good.
He's good.
Varus has a lot of attack speed and burst. It's not quite as good as Lucian, but level 6 is so much more threatening.
Sure.
And I think you can instantly see that there's summoner spells for use to switch to cleanse, and they know that the threat is the CC, because if you land an ult on either target, you follow up with the Braum passive and the Braum ult, they're dead.
Yeah, I think.
And it's so good for pressure at mid-game.
I think the one difference with the Lucian Varus is that the Lucian can commit to trades without the use of his ultimate pre-level 6. He can dive in, piercing light, double attacks all over the place.
But the crucial thing is, nothing really happened in the lane pre-6.
So that's true. That's true. I mean, you made a good observation there. So we are looking at post-6. It's going to be Shikari playing his Poppy in the top lane. And now Kerberos has got the choice. Now, you see a Poppy in the top lane in this composition. Do you want to add another frontliner, just go toe-to-toe with Poppy, or are you looking to have that classic Kerberos split push on the table?
I think you have a win condition in the composition. You just need to get late. I think say something like the Cho'Gath again.
I was literally going to say Cho'Gath. I think it's probably a good pick.
You can facilitate even more because you have great engage in the Rakan, which they had last game, sure. But now you have the Zillion. That extra speed for the Cho'Gath means he's so much more of a threat. And now you have an immobile AD carry in the Varus.
Yeah.
So Lucian, it's very easy to kite away from the Cho'Gath. It's hard on Varus. If he has Righteous Glory or flashes onto you, you just die.
I mean, he can just run at you and eat you, basically.
And I think you definitely don't want to put the Jarvan in top lane, because Poppy is picked often in Jarvan because her W does interrupt that combo from him. So kind of negates the effectiveness. I think I like the adjustments they've made. I think maybe it was a bit disrespectful that it took them to game 2 to realize the threat that Lucian Braum lane would be. But I still think Fnatic very much have a comp that is going to do strong in the early to mid game, and it comes down to, can they execute like they did last game, which was great, or do Diabolus have a bit more life in them?
Does it depend what build we see from Matty as well? Because I've always felt with builds with Varus, you can either go more of the piercing route, which gives you a mid-game spike, or you go for more attack speed, which can allow you to scale a little bit better.
I would lean towards the attack speed build, because I think if you go piercing, I think you just do nothing to the Shogun after mid-game.
Apparently, Dogchamp was doing the overlays, and Dogchamp is very sorry. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, she's so cute. Oh.
Can't stay mad.
I love how we actually have a get out clause for whenever production is like,
whenever there's a mistake, it's like,
whoopsie daisy,
here's Dogchamp.
Yeah. Dogchamp made the error.
I'm going to do that whenever I say something wrong when I cast.
Yeah,
like,
it was Dogchamp casting.
Dogchamp.
I'm going to say it was Jake casting.
Dogchamp bit me.
I'm going to say Jake was casting instead.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think we sound similar, don't we?
Do you not see that thing with Fnatic where they tweeted out saying, I hate to say it, but Fnatic are smurfing, and Jake had said it, but then they added me instead. And obviously, because Fnatic's like a huge Twitter account, it got so many interactions, and Jake's just sitting there like...
I literally just processed that whole sentence about 2 seconds after you said it, and it tickled me.
Yeah,
as well as Jake just doing this through the glass.
I was very happy. I was happy to take it. And then I think they tweeted again. This time it was me, and they did at me. So I'm just like, yeah, thanks for the impressions, guys. Love you.
Well, they were smurfing in that last game particularly.
And, yeah, in that last game very much so. They were smurfing. And they have a good composition to do it again. They need that mid-game focus once more. And it's very much playing around those ultimates. They have great engage off the back of the Varus and Lissandra. You pick a target, it's very much a single target comp, which is why I think the Zillion's good against it. But if you catch them out at the wrong time, there's not much you can do. Targamas
coming in for Prosfair at the start of this series, and you can see what an impact it has had for Fnatic. Diabolus running with that same roster. They do need to shape things up. Yusa has had unbelievable games throughout this split as well. This is his time to step up to the plate, or can we see Fnatic take this to a potential 3-0? Well, let's get on to the Rift for this second game of the best of 5 series.
Yeah, should be a hypey one. And again, we're looking at Fnatic to have a strong early game into the mid game. A Zillion is pretty bad if he falls behind.
Yes.
Because people just die and you ult them again and they just die again. But crucially, if they manage to remain even or get ahead, Fnatic's comp is very single target based. Like you look at Magi, Felix and Dan, they very much want to ult one target.
Or that target's likely going to be Vayne.
Yeah, and then kill the Vayne. But a Vayne with Cleanse and the Kroxan ult, it makes it very difficult to do that. The reason the composition works, though, is if they get ahead, they don't even need 3 ults to take down a target. They can use 3 ults and take down 3 targets. And that's where the Zillion starts to lose effectiveness, because, again, you can only resurrect 1 champion.
All right, baby. Let's get into this game. Fnatic Diabolus. And I'm very much excited, because I do think Diabolus have made some adjustments, like you said, to this composition that makes it feel more viable as the game goes on as well. And I feel like they've taken what Fnatic have thrown at them and said, okay, we have answers here. But now it comes down to execution, and execution is critically what was lacking in the last game for Diabolus and what was really going well for Fnatic as well.
Yeah, and one of the big advantages here is that last game we saw Ryze against Lissandra, a very sort of equally ranged matchup, but Zillion has a pretty big range advantage against Lissandra, so Kroxan should be pretty comfortable there.
Also, Kerberos did pretty well into Shikari last game, and actually something over the course of this split that I really want to kind of praise Kerberos for is that he's got better as a player, I think. Kerberos has constantly improved as a player over the course of this split. I think sometimes during the Forge of Champions, there was a lot of questions asked about Kerberos and how he played. I think throughout the UKLC, he's been consistently pretty good, and I like to see that.
Other than that game where he got solo killed 3 times by Ego Speed, but ignoring that, he has definitely got better and been pretty solid. You've seen the lane advantage coming in to that Braum and that Varus, which is pretty expected.
You do kind of give up the lane when you play Rakan a little bit.
Yeah, and especially into Braum Varus, has so much pushing power. I mean, Vayne Rakan, you do not pick for the level 1, the level 2.
How is Dan doing this every time? He's just double...
Last game, he only got 1.
Okay, well, from what I saw yesterday, he was like double river scuttling every single game.
Yeah,
and he just never got punished for it.
Just confident, and the other team... Well, I think a big thing here is a wave priority. When your bot lane is shoved in, you essentially get that bot lane scuttle for free.
Sure, yeah.
And I think he takes the top one as a relatively risky one, but then the bottom one is just essentially his bot lane provided it to him for free. And now, using that pressure, Targamas can walk up. That was a bold all-in.
I mean, it was a very slow. I mean, you would have had to really struggle to flash that one if you were Kroxan.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not even sure if he needed a flash. Like, I don't think the claw would have killed him. It does only have 1 point in it. I think it was a bit of a panic flash, but I think it was also quite over-aggressive for Magi Felix, Because bear in mind, this is then Aftershock Lissandra, so there's no like potential of a Comet or an Airy coming in. So I don't think the Claw would have been enough to kill him, but Krogson, respecting his opponent, does end up trading the flashes.
And they both teleport back to lane as well.
Christy, Monkus is waiting here.
Monkus is waiting for MagiFelix. I don't think MagiFelix knows, and he's going to get locked up by the bombs. Flash. Have they got enough? No, they don't, because it's Zilean at level 4.
I mean, it's not even that, it's just the Aftershock. Aftershock does so much to negate that burst. As soon as he roots, it felt like he shook off all of the burst damage from Krogson. So they get a favorable trade, and this is unfortunate for MagiFelix because he just TP back in, only to get chunked out. But at the end of the day, you wanted to get a kill from that gank.
I actually saw in the early phases of the lane, Krogson taking some poor trades versus MagiFelix as well. MagiFelix utilizing the shards beyond the minions to get a bit of trade damage in. Also not afraid to go aggressive and search for those fights once those bombs had missed. And that's one of the caveats of Zilean in the lane. If you miss the bombs, you are like a sitting duck. And all you can do is trade back with auto attacks. So yeah. if Lissandra wants to move in and spam some Qs, you can't really do much about it.
He is in a really good position now, though, because MagiFelix is back at full HP, but used all 3 corrupting stacks for that, while Krogson still has all three of his. Monkus, I mean, the instant you see Matty and Targamas move back like that, you know that there's a ward in that brush.
Dan here on the top side of the map, Kerberos not quite moving back as of yet. He's actually going to wait for everything and then start to flash afterwards, although Dan is going to commit. In goes Shikari and picks up first blood.
Just overstep. You knew there's a big wave coming in. There's no reason to try and meet it. You could have just let it push in.
Yeah.
And as a result, Kerberos just get punished. And there's now a massive CS advantage between the top laners. And this is on a matchup that you really shouldn't be winning out this hard. So Kerberos, just as we were complimenting him, it's the caster curse, has started to fall behind a bit, but in return, Diabolus will pick up this Cloud Dragon. They got a ton last game, didn't exactly pay off, and with the first being a Cloud, and we'll actually see a replay with Shikari's face there.
Shikari heart sticker.
So here, Kerberos, he doesn't want to flash instantly because the flash will just follow, but he ends up getting knocked back, and now he's so low in HP that there's not really great amount of options there, and the thing is, because he was so far away from his turret, this massive wave gets shoved in against him, and there's now a pretty hefty CS difference in the top lane. Even after TPing back up, he's still down 13.
Yeah, and you can see Shikari's still got his teleport available. Luckily, Dragon did just go down, so there isn't that many reasons for Kerberos to want to teleport to the other side of the map right now, so he probably feels pretty safe having burnt that. It
does mean, though, that Monkus' effectiveness is limited on the other side of the map, because you go for a play bot lane, and it's liable for Shikari to TP
teleport,
in.
Yeah. Unless Kerberos can match that and stop it with the Q, but...
Well, that's one thing, is if you're in range as Kerberos, you can definitely stop that teleport from coming through, but you have to be able to, and it means you're constantly overextending as the Cho'Gath just to ensure you're in range to stop the TP, which you don't really want to do when you're Cho'Gath without a flash. And Dan and Monk is actually going to find each other here.
Yeah, Dan looks like he wants to go aggressive into Monk' jungle. Monk has actually caught him, and you can see Yusa and Hado are now rotating up. Oh, Monk is taken so low and did almost no damage back. Dan's going to get locked up here. Really great condemn coming up from Yusa, actually forcing Dan away. MagiFelix is joining the party. Targamas jumps over, gets the ignite. That's a big move, and that is the teleport that you talked about as Targamas moves in. Shikari trying to chase up Yusa, but it is a teleport for a blue buff and a kill onto Dan. Krog's unable to escape.
I just don't understand the reason there. Monkus seems like he went in with his combo on Dan. You don't win that. And then they try and go aggressive on Dan, but crucially the CC was overlapped very badly. Hado's knockup came in at the same time as the condemn. And so as a result, Dan is actually able to get out. And then, like we talked about, the TP results in Fnatic having the advantage. Although I will say, Kerberos did manage to catch up in CS on the back of that.
Yeah, he did, and he got a turret plating as well. So he's picked up a bit of extra gold. So swings and roundabouts. Fnatic have got themselves a decent gold lead to work with, but look at the CS difference between Yusa and Matty right now. What has gone on in this lane, Dan?
He's just applied a lot more pressure, and it felt like Yusa having to move to try and defend his jungler really didn't help, but I just feel like picking Vayne Rakan is so disrespectful. It's such a weak lane. You know, Rakan doesn't have the base stats to really hold up against going in on a Braum. Yes, he's great late and his engage is insane, but I just feel like you're picking a lane that is just purely scaling, and then you're surprised when you fall behind if Fnatic take over the mid game.
Yeah, and a lot of that gold difference between the two teams probably is coming directly from that CS difference between Matty and Yusa. I'd love to see how sort of different their gold values are right now. But yeah, it's same old story for Fnatic. They are just currently dominating Diabolus, and Diabolus are just, again, waiting for late.
Yeah, absolutely, and they still have that win condition, which is late game, but it's not looking good so far. Once again, Fnatic have the control, and now Yusa getting zoned off again here. Really has to respect the threat. Now this Varus is level 6, and there's no cleanse available on Yusa. The ult is such an easy engage. You can see how Yusa's playing. He's permanently trying to tumble back, so if that ult does come out, he's reacted to it, but it's not a fun position to be in. And now Dan has actually found Monkeys. Won't be able to get on top of him, but Monkeys has to be really careful with MagiFelix moving over.
And Krogson's pretty concerned about his own lane right now as well. Just wants to get that farm.
I think they might just look for a dive here.
I mean, they could do. Everyone knows it's happening, though. Maybe it's just they just want to ward them off that turret to get some plating off. That seems to be the case as Matty and Targos pick up a bit of extra plating with MagiFelix and Dan on the sidelines here. Again, that's now almost 40 CS difference between the two AD carries. Pretty huge. Yeah,
just a massive advantage here, and they keep pushing it up. And they're so scared of Matty. This ult from the Varus is a death sentence for either Yusa or Hado. And so as a result, you can see they're constantly trying to play in a way that's hard to predict and hard to hit. But as a result, all Matty has to do is just throw auto attacks at them, and they don't even try and hit him back. So completely dominant in this lane. And again, Fnatic, they know the win condition, they're playing to it so far.
I mean, I think almost both games have had huge wins through the bottom side of the map here for Fnatic, and that's not something that we're used to saying with the likes of MagiFelix and Shikari on the roster, but xMatty has been a monster in this final so far. And Targamas seems to be the right addition for Fnatic to give them a more dominant bot lane phase. Yeah,
their laning phase has been really solid in their game 1 and 2, and they've been first picking that Braum, and it seems like it was a good reason because they just have complete control of that lane. But I have to question the Diabolus' drafting and why they decided to go for this Vayne Rakan again and again. I mean, maybe it'll be different this game. They might be able to close it out by getting an advantage later on, but so far it looks like a repeat of game 1, and banning away the Lucian just wasn't enough to change things.
No, and I think when you're running with a Vayne win condition, you have to be damn sure that you're going to have a good laning phase. You can see Shikari trying to knock him away. Doesn't quite land.
Well, at least not lose the game of the laning phase, which has been the situation so far.
They do get themselves the Rift Herald, though, which is a pretty nice pickup. They're going to allow that to be used probably top lane immediately with the wave pushing in. Yeah, but in return, they do lose first tower and a ton of plating to xMatty. But, I mean, in this situation, it's best off just to trade because you're not going to win by... You're not going to make... you're not going to win if you keep your bot lane bot. So they will go for the trade, and this just means so much gold over to xMatty. 610 gold for xMatty right there.
He's going to have a finished Blazing King by the time he gets back, and Diabolus, they get some plates in the top lane, but nothing on top of that. Remember, that tower had already lost a plate before the start of that Rift Herald, so not a massive win. Matty's going to recall now, should have his Blazing King, may even have more, but he is in a great position to carry this game.
Yep, and he is, again, like we said, the 40 CS difference between the two AD carries. I think if we go into game 3...
Oh, that is a big gold difference.
Yes, that is 1,700 gold between Matty and Yusa. That makes up almost half of the entire gold difference.
That's more than 100 gold a minute difference.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they need to have Hado on something that isn't Rakan. They need to stop thinking that they can play for late versus Fnatic.
If you want to go Vayne, that's fine, but don't go Rakan as well. If you want to go Rakan, that's fine, but don't go Vayne as well. I feel like it's just really disrespectful. And Fnatic, I mean, there's the difference as well, is that we talked about how that Cho'Gath would be a massive presence in the last game. Against a Varus, with the Blade of the King Ginsu's build, he's going to go down a lot quicker.
He's going to get shredded, yeah.
I mean, the Lucian never really had issues with it because they won so hard in the mid game. But even if it gets to late, Mighty can pretty handily cut through that Cho'Gath.
Again,
dragon, but it's Diabolus again the dragons, but it shows Fnatic really don't care about these minor dragons, the oceans, the clouds, even the mountains at times. They know their priority is this gold lead, and they're already 3,500 ahead, and they're looking to extend it more. And Mighty, once again, getting this solo gold.
I mean, he's
solo
got
plating.
Almost 2 towers worth of plating for himself. He's going to be nearly at a tier 2 item before Yusa looks like finishing his first.
Yeah, it is not a good situation to be in. And that's the thing, is that the 2-item spike for these Blade of the King Ginsu's builders is so huge. It makes such a massive difference. And Mighty is going to hit his so much sooner than Yusa. Yusa's just not going to be able to trade any auto attacks with him.
That's so ridiculous. That is another 500 gold going over to Matty, who is now a 50 CS advantage over Yusa. And that really is the story of this game, because everything else has been pretty calm. Everything has been almost uneventful across the rest of the map, and it's all been about this dominance from Matty and Targamas, who have then rotated between lanes, and Matty has funneled gold onto himself. I mean, this has almost been like a full funneling strategy that's gone straight onto this Varus.
Yeah, and it's just, again, I have to go back to the draft. I think it's disrespectful, and Diabolus, once again, they're playing the waiting game where they have to wait till the point where they can take fights, because right now, Yusa, look at Matty's items. Yusa's not even finished his Blade of King, doesn't even have the recurve bow, and Matty is really getting close to having that Ginsu's done already.
Like I said, it's likely that he's going to finish Ginsu's at the same time that Yusa finishes Blade of the King.
The thing is for Diabolus is that you have the Zilean, who's not going to be a big damage output. You need someone to be doing damage to justify ulting. If you're ulting Hado, it's not going to make any difference to the team fights. You have to have a very strong Vayne who you ult and who comes back and then wins you the team fight, rather than a Vayne who just insta-dies, you ult them, and then Yusa just insta-dies again.
And most importantly, Matty's going to have that Ginsu's for the spawn of Baron. So if Fnatic want to do something that's going to force the hand of Diabolus, they have Baron up. And that'll be a really big turning point where this game will start to spiral out of control. I mean, we're already now at a 4,500 gold lead in favor of Fnatic, and really Fnatic have done very little apart from just play the map. Yeah,
absolutely. They just had complete control. It's been good pressure coming out from them, and they just know exactly how to work the map to get those gold leads. Now, Diabolus look like they might be trying to get some control in the Baron area, but Yusa's currently 1v2 in the bot lane, and the pings are coming out. I think Fnatic are just going to push down for this tier 2 tower, and right now there's no one really to contest it.
You don't have any kind of presence coming from your mid laner in terms of damage output in these mid-game skirmishes. You have a Vayne who hasn't even finished her first item. You've got a one-item Jarvan who's gone for the Cinderhulk instead of the Warriors. He's not even going to deal damage himself. They are putting all the eggs in the Yusa basket, and the lane has gone horrifically.
I mean, the big thing as well is the level basket. Particularly these carries who have that on-hit damage. You get so many points in. Oh, we actually see it in all in.
And that's going to be Croxon going down. Has popped his ultimate. That's going to be a big engage from Monkeys, though, but I don't know if the damage is going to be there for Diabolus right now. Yusa pops his ultimate. The flashes come through. Matty's the target. Yusa does not get the kill onto Matty, and Matty is still going. A big root from Magifelix as they follow up, and this has been diabolical for Diabolus. They are absolutely swept aside. And that is exactly how we predicted this would go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You die on the Zilean, you come back and you just die again, and there's really no presence from Diabolus, no team fight. Yusa went for the hero play on a Mighty, but Magifelix and Shikari quickly shut him down. Crucially, the Cataclysm was his downfall because Shikari headbutted him into it and got that stun. But it's just not looking good, and now a lot of items, a lot of gold going to be coming through for the side of Fnatic. Luden's finished, and we will see a replay of that. So Croxon gets ulted at the start, does manage to get the ult off, but that means that Zilean ult is off the table, so that champion's very limited usefulness. They go very aggressive onto Matty, who flashes away, but now Yusa, he's like, we need to find this kill, I need to go in, but Shikari knocks him into the Cataclysm.
That was so big from Shikari right there.
Yeah, but it was great for Magifelix as well, instantly just shut down the threat on a Matty, and Matty got low, but even if they killed him, there's no way they win that team fight. No, but the fact he survived as well, he doesn't get shut down. And now look at his items. He has that blade, has that Ginsu's, and a stopwatch. That same play again is going to go even worse.
That was so big from Shikari as well, even though it really wouldn't have made a difference to the overall team fight. Just to have that presence of mind to say, damn, okay, I've got an opportunity to flash in and save the fight here. You always talk about Shikari being a bit of a clutch player in sort of big situations. And remember, this means a lot for Fnatic to come out on top here. Not only does it mean European Masters group stage, immediately they get that place, but also Shikari would be the 4-time back-to-back UK champion.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to think about.
If you're looking at hot property in the top lane that wants to win you tournaments, Shikari's probably the hottest in the market right now.
It just really raises the question is there any point in us even having a competition if Shikari's just going to win it every time?
Exactly.
Should we just give the trophy to whoever signs Shikari at the start of the split?
I think that's what we're going to have to do.
But we'll see. Diabolus still have a hope, but right now, 7k goal behind. It really is a thin hope. And right now, Yusa's actually getting engaged on.
Yusa's dead. Dan picks that up so easily. I just think Yusa is in a rough position right now. Not much that they can do about it. It looked like the rest of Diabolus was playing the Matty hunting party. They were going off on a top lane roam to try and catch Matty under his turret, but they didn't get it because the warding from Fnatic around the Baron pit is so good, and the warding from Diabolus. Do you know when you look at warding patterns? I sometimes like to call them happy and sad warding patterns. That's a sad warding pattern from Diabolus. That's like super defensive in their own jungle, nothing in the river area, and it's just a sad, sad warding pattern.
Yeah, and it just feels like Fnatic once again have complete control. The vision is a crucial thing because it's so hard to make plays without vision. And that's why Diabolus constantly feel like they're on the back foot, because they look for these plays, but then they're concerned that, wait, what if someone's there? What if we just lose the whole game with this? What if we lose the Baron? And so they just end up backing off, and Toxin gets knocked up.
He's getting knocked up, doesn't actually get the ultimate off, but just as you said, he's going to die immediately. A brilliant knockup from Targamas there, and now Monkeys is going to be locked under turret. Matty's still going, absolutely no one to stop him, and Hado escapes with just a sliver of HP.
Ults himself, comes back, dies again. It just shows how bad Zilean is when he falls behind. This champion is oppressive when ahead, but when there's no one useful for you to ult, it just feels pointless. You're just buying time, but for what?
And there we go. Kerberos caught under tower. This is just all over the place for Diabolus right now. Fnatic it looks like they're playing with their food. I mean, 2 turrets off the back of a very staggered engage, and now Yusa locked up once more. He's only just respawned. Come on, Fnatic, have a heart as they push down this inhibitor turret. They're going to get another one off the back of this, and Diabolus, just like we said in a previous game, lemmings walking off a cliff.
They just gotten absolutely destroyed. There's no other way to say it. This has been Fnatic showing the potential people expected from them at the start of the split, and it looks like gearing up for playoffs is not unique to the LEC team.
Nope.
Fnatic have geared up to a major degree.
And Matty must have so much gold again to just go back. I mean, I'm expecting just an instant GA buy or an instant an item buy. I don't even see things like this season.
I think you can go like a Phantom Dancer and get that extra defensive. He's going for the BF, so we'll go towards that GA, you would think.
Yeah, you would think the GA, or maybe he's even working towards something more I don't know, maybe even an Infinity Edge or a BF sword. It'd be interesting if that's the case.
Usually I'd go for the Z-Light and before the Infinity
Edge, yeah.
At this point, if you take the GA, you really negate any chance of killing you. And you're essentially doing what Zilean does, except better, because Matty's actually valuable, unlike Yusa, who's just worthless at this point.
I think Yusa and Hado need to take the fight to Matty and Targamas in the next game, because they gave up the lane with the draft, just like you said. I mean, the Vayne Rakan, it's great for when you want to be defensive.
Oh, Hado.
Goodbye, Hado. He's dead. That's another, maybe an overcommit of CC coming out from
Fnatic. They just wanted to make sure the job was done. They know how mobile Hado is, and still had his flash, but they take him down, and the thing is, there's nothing Diabolus can do. They can't go right. They don't have these ults. We can now fight them.
Because they just lose the straight
Fnatic are still going to win. They're 11k gold up, and they'll start the Baron up. I think Diabolus might look for this steal, but
it's crazy that some of the most one-sided games that we're seeing are coming from the final. These are some of the most one-sided games we've seen all season. And it looks like they're going to engage onto Kerberos. He gets locked up, but this is not the story of the fight. This is the story of Diabolus just slowly being churned out of the UKLC, even with some locked up frontliners. Yusa can do no damage as Kerberos now going to get locked up by MagiFelix. I think MagiFelix actually in trouble, though, as now Diabolus have caught them split. Then Magi jumps over the wall, and this is the man that you need to worry about. He has got so much damage, forced to be condemned away by Yusa, as the rest of Diabolus run with their tails between their legs, as the Wolf Matty charges them down.
I'm going to say that was actually a really good fight for Diabolus, considering how bad it could have gone.
Yeah.
Like, that could have been a clean ace and a Baron, and they managed to string something together. Considering they're 13-0, that could have been a lot worse. So, Diabolus survive for now. They will force Fnatic to recall without taking the Baron. So, that's a win in my book. Considering how dire this game is, you have to take the small victories.
You take the small victories, absolutely. And I think in a situation where you could have probably lost the game from that point, to come out with the game still intact is always going to be a bonus. But you're still looking at an 11k gold lead for Fnatic. You're still looking at Baron, which is going to be immediately threatened again once more. You're going to have to go and find that fight again.
Yeah, and the crucial thing is a lot of flashes were burnt on the side of Diabolus. That CC is still there. And remember, they took that fight without the Bar Assault, without the Lissandra ult. They now have those available. They're going to start the Baron up, and Diabolus, they want to be able to contest, but it's going to be hard pressed to. Remember, no flash now on Cho'Gath, so no chance of him looking for steal. Monkeys wants to go for it. The ball comes in.
Oh, they're on to Haddo now. They're going to back him off. They're going to go for another big engage, or the rest of Fnatic maybe backing off towards the Baron once more. Monkeys is the Baron King Stealer. Baron Steel Kinger. I don't know one of the words. He's trying to go for it. Jumps over onto Felix, but the lockup is already there. They're not going to let Monkeys get anywhere near that pit as he's looking for a flash. Locked up
down
by Shikari. Yusa is down. Dan now chasing Kerberos through. And this is just mopping duty for Fnatic as they get both the Baron and they get the entire Diabolus roster to boot. Kerberos last on the menu. Doesn't taste great, but it takes a victory.
Now, in that last fight, when I said things could have gone a lot worse, that's what I was talking about. That is a lot worse. So, Fnatic get a full ace, full clean ace. They get the Baron, and now they're going to start pushing down, knocking on the doors of Diabolus. I just don't think there's much that Diabolus are going to be able to do.
I think they are just way too far behind at this point. And Diabolus, welcome to the 7th layer of hell. Usually you'd think the Devils would be accustomed to it, but the 2-0 Fnatic in this best of 5 as they push down these Nexus turrets. Maybe a bit presumptuous, but we can all see that Fnatic have got this game well in the bag. They're pushing through this final fight. Diabolus can do nothing. Matty cleans up as well as Felix, and this is going to be the game going over to Fnatic.
Yeah, just completely dominant performance. I mean, 1 kill came in for Diabolus on the end of that onto Targamas. But other than that and a couple of dragons, it was almost a perfect game.
Yeah, that was really good.
That's worse than game 1.
Let's hope Diabolus can find some sort of turnaround now because they have got 3 games on the trot to win here.
Yeah, well, let's play devil's advocate. Crucially, they do get side selection here. I think they've established that they haven't won on red side. So maybe change to blue. Maybe they have a strategy for that. Well, they must have had a strategy coming in. Maybe that's going to work out better. I think pick something for your bot lane that doesn't just AFK for so long. I mean, in that first game, they could have taken a Lucian for Yusa. He's played it consistently. He's had really solid performances on it. And they just went, you know what? You guys can have Lucian Braum. We'll take Vayne Rakan.
Even if Fnatic had taken Lucian, you can give Haddo Braum, who is a really solid Braum player.
I'm questioning the decision-making coming out in terms of drafting. But even then, I mean, it's not just down a draft. I feel like Fnatic have played really well. Dan's had complete control, and Monkey's just seen off form this whole series.
Got to ban Rek'Sai, do you think, if you can't match that kind of level of aggression in the early game?
If you ban Rek'Sai, you leave Olaf open. If you ban them both, then you're just leaving so many things open. I think.
So where do you think Monkey's defaults? Gets off Jarvan and goes something else?
Yeah, I think the Jarvan into Rek'Sai matchup, he's not being able to play it. It feels like whenever Dan gets close to him, he just murders him. But just on top of that, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, maybe play him on something that's a bit more defensive.
Sejuani,
so that
get him on the Sejuani
yeah,
again.
maybe that. Or ideally, he takes something like the Rek'Sai, so he actually brings the strong matchup. Because on the Jarvan, it feels like they pick it for the flex. 2 times in a row, they haven't flexed it. So Fnatic are like, well, okay, if you're going to keep sticking it in the jungle, we'll just pick Rek'Sai. And it's like a flex is pointless if the other team don't think you're going to flex it.
Yeah.
If they don't think there's any chance of it, then you've essentially just locked yourself into that pick, and no one's worried about it. So I feel like they went with pretty much the same composition. There was a couple of changes. Well, no, there was 1 change, which was a mid laner. And then they just went, oh, wow, it didn't work again. And I'm like...
I think we like the theory behind the Diabolus composition, but it reeked of the same issues. And Zilean actually made those issues worse, in my opinion.
At least Lissandra could do something.
Yeah, well, yeah, at least Lissandra could do something, or at least even Ryze can do something as well, you know. But Zilean... he does nothing, and all he's there is to facilitate Yusa. So if you're picking a losing bot lane, and categorically Matty and Tigers have shown that they stomped that bot lane.
What? Just don't pick Vayne Rakan.
Yeah.
Just pick something you could do something on. Because, I mean, I've seen times where they'll be like, okay, let's take Lucian Alistar, let's go ham, let's be aggressive. And it feels like, I don't know, if maybe last night they were watching some Targamas Matty montages and they just got completely intimidated, but it feels like they're just so scared of them. Just pick something that you can actually win lane.
All right, let's calm down a bit as we go to a very short interlude, and we'll be back with this best of 5 between Fnatic and Diabolus.